Today is Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, and the board meeting is now called to order. It is currently 6:02 p.m., and all of our board members are present. Ooh. At this time, we'll have the land acknowledgement by Director Carson Cottingham.
Thank you. We are gathered today on the land of the Kalapuya, who are represented by the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde and the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians. The relationship between the Kalapuya people and this land continues unbroken to this day, and we offer gratitude for the land and for the generations, present and past, who have stewarded the land since time immemorial. We respectfully acknowledge and honor past, present, and future Native American and Indigenous students and staff of Salem-Keizer Public Schools. We invite you to join us in honoring these ancestral grounds and celebrating the resilience and strength of all Native American and Indigenous people.
Thank you. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Superintendent Castaneda, are there any modifications to the agenda?
No, there are none.
I will turn this portion over to you for our spotlights.
Thank you. Wonderful. Well, spotlights are always amongst our favorite parts of the board meeting. And what we will do is at the end of our spotlights, we will meet over next to this lovely dry erase board and take photos. What I would like to do first is introduce Karen McDonald. And as she comes up for the community spotlight, I'll just briefly steal a tiny bit of thunder to say that this community spotlight is particularly near and dear to our family's hearts. So I will turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much. Do I sit here?
Yes, please.
Okay. So thank you very much. Good evening, Chair Richardson, board directors, Superintendent Castaneda, and student advisors. Today, we are honored to spotlight a remarkable organization for their dedication for empowering new refugee families to our community. Salem for Refugee is committed to ensuring that refugee families feel welcome and equipped to thrive in our community. The SFR team not only assists our new neighbors in settling into a new environment, but they provide guidance and support as they enter our new school system. With monthly orientation, Salem for Refugee helps our new neighbors navigate our public school system, understand important processes, and stay engaged in our school community. These orientations help families build confidence as they settle into a new life in a new community and as their children enter our schools. The Salem for Refugee also offers supports for our high school students through a dedicated after-school tutoring program. This program is hosted by the Salem YMCA and sponsored and currently supports 29 high school students who receive tutoring from Willamette University students. These volunteers help refugee students strengthen their English skills and keep up with their homework, providing academic encouragement and support as our students adapt to their new schools. Beyond academic assistance, Salem for Refugee engages with families on many levels. Their work goes beyond meeting immediate needs. It fosters long-term connections and community engagement by welcoming our new neighbors, equipping them with the tools to be successful and contributing members of our community. Thank you, Salem for Refugees, for making a difference in our community and our schools. Your work is a cornerstone of support, growth, and empowerment for families transitioning into a new and often unfamiliar environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that community spotlight. So now I would like to welcome Jen Williams, principal of Crossler, and she will share our staff spotlight.
Good evening, Chair Richardson, Board Directors, Superintendent Castaneda, and student advisors. It is my honor to introduce someone who has truly helped transform our Crossler community, Mr. Joe Matat. Last year, Crossler faced a gap with no woodshop or industrial technology program due to staffing challenges, leaving students without hands-on technical learning. Then Mr. Matat, one of our social studies teachers, approached me with a bold idea. He wanted to revive the woodshop program himself. What followed were months of planning and envisioning what we could offer our students, and by spring, Joe was officially on board to launch the program. Over the summer, Joe dedicated over 300 hours of his own time to clean, organize, and redesign the shop, creating a space that prioritizes safety, creativity, and hands-on learning. His dedication and energy were contagious, inspiring all of us at Crossler. However, Joe's impact did not stop there. Late in the summer, I was able to connect Joe with Team Oregon Build, a program founded to support families impacted by Oregon's wildfires. Through their week-long professional development, he gained insights into how Team Oregon Build helps rebuild lives. Joe later shared that this was the best professional development of his career, and he was inspired to bring the mission to Crossler. Now, through our unique partnership with Team Oregon Build, Crossler's woodshop students are not only learning essential skills, but creating items that make a difference. Students are building picnic benches and planter boxes that will then be donated to the families impacted by wildfires, including some of the very families that Joe learned about this summer. Crossler Middle School is very proud to be the first middle school in Salem-Keizer to join this initiative. Thanks to partnerships with our SKPS CTE department, Team Oregon Build, and local businesses like Lowe's and Harbor Freight, our shop is now equipped with upgraded, high-quality tools supporting both student safety and skill development. Joe's vision, dedication, and compassion have transformed our woodshop and provided our students with skills that will last a lifetime, all while teaching them the importance of giving back to their community. Joe, thank you for making a lasting impact.
Where's Joe?
And finally, we have student spotlights. This is an unusual month in that we have 2 student spotlights. Well, actually, technically, we have many student spotlights because the first one is a rather large one. And what we are delighted to do is invite Wendy Stradley up, the West Salem, oh, there we go, there's Wendy, West Salem Athletic Director, because we are number 1 in something, and we really want to talk about that.
We do.
Good evening, Chair Richardson, Board of Directors, and Superintendent Castaneda, and student advisor. It is my pleasure to highlight a remarkable achievement by West Salem High School's varsity football team. This year, the team has been ranked first in the state among all 6A high schools for their collective GPA through the OSAA All Academic Program. This program compares the average GPA of varsity teams across the state, and we are so proud to have our team lead the way among both public and private schools in the 6A classification. This accomplishment reflects the strong values and commitments set forth by head coach Sean Stanley and his coaching team. At West Salem, our program emphasizes students are students first and athletes second. This priority has clearly shown through in the team's outstanding GPA, with each player embodying this academic first mindset that Coach Stanley and his staff have instilled. Academic advisor Scott Whipple has been instrumental in this success. Scott has partnered closely with students, teachers, and staff to ensure that each athlete receives the support they need. He has spent countless hours working individually with students, connecting them with tutoring resources, and tracking their progress to ensure every student athlete can succeed both on and off the field. We have 137 athletes in our overall football program, with 61 on the varsity team. These students represent West Salem's commitment to ensuring every graduate is prepared and confident for life after high school. Our football program's top GPA raises the bar for academics in athletics at West Salem, showing that excellence in sports and academics can go hand in hand. The journey of these athletes often begins as freshmen, when the coaching staff starts building a supportive relationships that last throughout their high school years. This overall GPA is not just a result of one season. It reflects years of steady dedication, guidance, and commitment. Through Coach Stanley and Scott Whipple's work, the students understand and embrace these values, maintaining them daily in the classroom and on the field. Congratulations to the student athletes for their dedication and hard work, and to Coach Stanley and Whipple for setting the tone for success and creating a culture of achievement that will inspire students for years to come. Help us cheer on the team during their next playoff game this Friday against Jesuit.
Thank you, Wendy. So it is now my unique pleasure to offer our second student spotlight. And what I'd like to do is thank the Native Education Program for the time, for the care, and for the thoughts and reflections they're going to be offering tonight. We have several students who are joining us, and I believe that will include some dancers. And Shelby, I may have to ask you to help me with the order of things, but I'll offer the acknowledgements, and then I will welcome our students up. Oh, Rob will be doing it. Thank you, Rob. All right, I think I'm going to turn over to you, Rob, because it seems like you're ready to welcome everyone in exactly the right order.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Richardson, Director, Superintendent Castaneda, and our student advisors. We want to thank you for giving our Native Education Program, Parent Advisory Committee, and program students an opportunity to share with you their culture, highlights, words of reflection, and encouragement. I would like to introduce to you our dancers, Zoe and Mason Decker from Hayesville Elementary School, and Jesse Solis and Adam Solis, all from the citizens of the Klamath Nation. So we're gonna start with the dance, and then Jesse's got a few words to end our time.
Wonderful.
Okay?
Thank you.
Great.
They were so wonderful. That's so courageous. Makes my heart happy. Thank you.
We are looking forward to your comments, Jesse. We'll turn it over to you.
Hello, hello. All right. Thank you. I had to write up a script today in biology class. I'm not very used to doing that. You know, whenever I do speak, I speak from my heart. I speak what I believe, and I believe that what you believe is inside that heart of yours, that soul, and it comes from within. But when I thought about what I wanted to say to a board of people that help our schools, I thought about how hard it was for me to be within those schools. And so I take it back a long time. You know, the Native people, we had a hard time in those schools. They were based off of hurtful things, oppression and such. So it was hard for us to assimilate to these because we weren't ever meant to be within those places. They weren't meant for us. They were meant to destroy us. And so growing up, I saw that a lot of discrimination, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain. And it was directed. That was the point of it. It was directed towards that person. But you know, today, I see, you know, just like this experience here, you know, it's a small victory, sure. Small amount of time, sure. But it's a victory nonetheless. I can't remember ever seeing a Native student, you know, someone my age or someone my complexion, someone with long hair, you know, or even my young cousins there, seeing them be able to dance in front of a board like this. And so I can acknowledge that times are progressing, that they're moving, and that does make my heart happy. And me and you have met superintendent at the cabinet meeting, and you really listened in, and you engaged with me. I didn't have a superintendent ever engage with me. I didn't have even principals engage with me. It was brush them off to the side. But that doesn't, you know, despite those times moving on, it doesn't mean that those old ways don't still exist. I have these victories. I get to speak in front of people. I speak in assemblies. I speak in presentations. I speak in committees. But even then, that oppressive idea still holds, and it still attacks me, you know. Not only mentally, but I had someone come up to me after an assembly and yell at me and berate me. And she said, "How dare you say those words? How dare you speak that way at that assembly?" Of course, she didn't put it as elegantly as I can, but she yelled at me, and she yelled at my principal too, saying, how dare you let that boy speak at that assembly? And I didn't understand what I'd done wrong. I spoke my heart. I spoke what I knew. I spoke what I was taught. So there's still things we have to work through. There's still dull minds. It's an unwillingness to progress that we have to work through. But if things continue to trend in which I see them today at this meeting and in the meetings that I've engaged with in the past couple weeks, it can build and build, and it's right here, me talking to you guys and all you guys back there listening to me. That's what builds these relationships, and that's what helps build a community. And so now you hear this voice, and I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself in the beginning. I got a little hyped up on the music there. Waklisi, Gewa Sesos, Jesse Redtail Solis Jr., Bus Lis Adonis Chow, No Amo Adokish Iwek Sikne, Mosep Ketchup Blaidagni Gen Waitas. Hello, how are you? My name is Jesse Redtail Solis Jr., also known as Black Heart Antelope. And my tribes are the Klamath and the Modoc. I thank the Creator for this day, and that is all I have to say. Thank you. What's up, Ketchup?
Thank you, everyone. So we'll now meet over here, and we have photos and a large stack of certificates.
Every time these managers work.
All right. Yeah, good job, everyone. Good job.
No, those kids could have done that so sweet.
And we're doing my partner with like so we're just and he runs the club so we're like
Where did Zoe go?
They come to club. We're gonna talk about
we have symphony on Thursday, bro.
We'll talk outside of club.
Check Jesse. Check Johnson's email for right speech for the 19th.
Thank you for all of those highlights. Weren't they wonderful? At this time, we will move to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Chair. So this report, there we go. One of the things that's been wonderful about this year compared to last year is that we have not been talking about the budget all year. And despite the fact that we haven't been talking about it all year, we still have been monitoring it closely. Last year, we made the commitment to bring quarterly updates, and we will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. This is going to be our Q1 update, but we're going to go back in time just a little bit because we want to return to the last point that we talked about the budget together, which was actually when we passed the budget. I will offer a quick spoil alert here by saying that we are going to be bringing what I consider to be really good news about the budget. It doesn't make the budget easy, but what we are going to go through tonight is the evidence of the sustainable path that we're on and the reasons that that sustainable path matters very much in the face of a lot of economic uncertainty that is present for all of us and is certainly present for school districts. So I hope you'll bear with me through a somewhat detailed, but I hope useful overview that takes us back to May. So in order to do this, I am going to introduce just a few pieces of vocabulary because there are very predictable areas that we might actually become confused, and I think I can help on the front end. So the first is when we talk about fiscal years, we always use the last 2 years. So for example, this is the 24-25 school year. This is fiscal year 25. Okay, here are the place. If we miscommunicate and create confusion, it will be around the following 2 terms. So a budgeted expense is the total amount that this board approved for us to spend. It could be in a certain area, it could be in total, but it is the total amount that we are allowed to spend under law. A forecast expense is different. That's the amount that we believe we will actually spend based on the spending patterns within a year. And so one is what we were allowed to spend, the other is what we actually see ourselves spending. More on this in a moment. And then the final is vacancy savings. Because we are over 90% people in our budget, when we have vacancies, that's the largest source of savings that can accumulate in a budget of our size. And so vacancy savings is when we are unable to fill positions that are posted, even though we are actively recruiting, even though we are actively looking to fill, sometimes we are just not able. And so the vacancy savings is the amount that we are not spending because of those vacant positions. More on this in a moment too. Okay, so to go back in time, back in May, this is when we last discussed this. Just as a quick reminder for the FY24, which was our last school year budget, we had a series of values we put out there around expenses and revenue and an $87 million ending fund balance. And in May, we were actually mostly talking about the year that we're in now. And so for the year that we were in now, we were looking at a $27 million gap between our budgeted expenses and our anticipated revenue. Or said another way, even after we cut $71 million last year, we still were looking at a $27 million gap that we left in our budget because we could not cut anymore. Well, we could, we did not feel we should cut anymore. And that gap is the difference between if we spent every cent that the board approved compared to the amount of money we were bringing in. That $27 million gap is what got a lot of attention in the media because we did not close our structural gap. We left that there. Okay, so that takes us back to May. Now, let's fast forward a few months and take a look at where we are now. So now we have left the last fiscal year, now we're squarely into this one, and we have 1 quarter's worth of data on actual spending and actual revenue. And this is what we look like now. So you can see just a few things right away. First of all, our ending fund balance is up quite a bit, and I'm going to explain why in a moment. And the second is that if you look right in the middle of that circle, you'll see a value that says 567. Those are forecast expenses, not budgeted expenses. And you'll see a number that says 562. That's our forecast revenue. And you can see how they almost touch. This is the financial image that we were working towards all year. And members of the board might recall that we even put this out there in a scenario and we said, this is where we want to be. This is the financial picture that every school district in Oregon wishes they were looking at right now. And we have it, but we have it because we experience significant pain as an organization. So what I want to do is talk you through how we ended up here and these changes. Okay, can you progress to the next slide? Okay, now that graph on the left, that's the exact same one. It's just really tiny. So here are the changes that we had. When we closed out last year, there were a few things that we didn't anticipate. Our ending fund balance was $9 million higher than we thought it was going to be in May. And that is for a number of factors, but foremost among them is that we had a positive May adjustment from the state. We received that after we presented on the budget last. We also had some slow spending. Last year was a hard year, and when things are that hard and everybody is talking about layoffs, do you know what's really slow? Hiring. And so we had more vacancy savings and other savings there, slightly more than we anticipated, and then we had a few one-time grant adjustments. So that increased our ending fund balance a little bit. This is going to be a really helpful thing that we will talk about in a moment when we talk about the changes in our expenses that are coming. In our forecast for this year, I'm going to go back to that word. Forecast means now not what we're allowed to spend, but the pace of our actual spending. We have a 3.5% vacancy rate right now. Despite the fact that we would like to have a 0% vacancy rate, we are not able to fill all of our positions. And there are a few areas that are hard to fill. There are people in this room who can predict them. There is a shortage in special education teachers. We cannot fill all of our SPIA positions. There are specialty positions that we cannot fill. Last year, we had about a 7% vacancy rate. This year, it's at 3.5%. Back in May, we didn't know what our vacancy rate would be because of our reduction in force. Now, after 1 quarter, we can project it. If the rest of the quarters look like this quarter, we will spend $20 million less than we were budgeted to spend, and that is mostly because of vacancy savings. There's a little bit of underspend in other items, but when I showed you that gap, that $27 million gap was closed, this is how it closed. It's not already closed, but if our spending continues at the pace it's at now, it will close by the end of the year. I would like to pause here just briefly and say that one of the things that is really good about this story is that it means we did not overcut. If we had cut that 27 million, we would be in forecast positive revenue. We do not want to be there. We want to be balanced. We want to be sustainable. It means that the vacancy savings, even though we wish they were full, the vacancy savings are doing that work for us. And then finally, the revenue or interest is up a little bit. If it continues at this rate, positive interest earnings, our revenue will be up just a little bit, about $2 million. And that means that all of those things together, if they are true, means that we will end with a $91 million ending fund balance. Anytime you close a structural gap, your ending fund balance goes up. It's like a teeter-totter. You cannot do one without the other. However, I want to share some of the things that are coming next and why this is a strong financial position for a district like ours. So here are the things that we know about next year. First, PERS, we will have a $20 million increase in PERS next year. This is causing a low-grade panic throughout the state because these PERS increases are significantly higher than any projections. And it's not just K-12. Everyone is talking about the PERS increases. We got advisory rates in the spring, final rates this year, and it's $20 million per year for the new biennium, both years. The second thing that everyone knows is that non-personnel expenses are increasing. This is true in household budgets. It is true in school budgets as well. We know that Ask ESP will be entering the third year of their contract, and there will be a 4% negotiated COLA, so we know that's happening. And we know that we are going to start a licensed bargain this year. Here are the things we don't know. We do not know what's going to happen in the new biennium. We know that there are some positive signals, and we have a lot of reason to be both staunch and hopeful. And we have a lot of advocacy work to do. We will not know this number until after we have to build the next budget. This is the main reason that everybody wishes they were looking at the budget we are looking at right now. Because if we had a 40 or a 50 or a $60 million gap, and we didn't know what our revenue would be, we would not know how much to reduce. What we have to do is hold on to our sustainability right now. And then the other thing that we don't know is the size of our licensed personnel increases, because they'll be subject to a bargain. With the combination of a strong financial situation right now, I will not call it healthy, but I will call it strong, and this amount of uncertainty, this is why when we opened the school year, we said we will not have to reduce again. It's the ending fund balance. It's the fact that the vacancy savings has closed our gap. And it's the fact that we did really painful things last year so that this year we do not have to confront the terrible uncertainty of a new biennium. I will pause here and just make space for board questions and comments. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Superintendent, thank you very much. I know sometimes this painful journey pays off. I just want to ask a question just for my own understanding. When it comes to revenue mid-year, if our attendance does not pick up or if attendance goes down, does Oregon Department of Education make any mid-year adjustment in terms of our revenue, or that whatever they committed, they will continue to commit?
There can be mid-year adjustments, like we had a May adjustment, and there have been years where there have been sizable mid-year negative adjustments. Not in the past few years, but not in the not distant future. It isn't typically made on the basis of attendance. It's made on other factors, including a difference between projected enrollment and actual enrollment. And that does have an adjacency with attendance, but a common misunderstanding is that we care about everyone's attendance because of money. That's really not the case. We care about everyone's attendance because of learning. We care about enrollment for many reasons, including revenue.
Yeah. So in addition to learning, sometimes families, for a variety of reasons, economic reasons, they cannot afford the housing cost. They move out to suburbs or to other communities. That will affect the revenue in terms of that. Just for my own understanding, the enrollment mid-year can affect the revenue. Okay.
Yeah. The state, when they determine how much the district will get for the year, they do it based on forecasts that we generate. And it is in the financial interest of every district for those forecasts to be as accurate as possible, because the risk and pain of negative mid-year adjustments is so significant that we would not want that kind of thing to happen.
Thank you.
Ashley?
Thank you, Chair. My question is around what sort, or when do we start modeling out then to 25, 26 based on the things that we know? And do you already have kind of an idea in your head of where that's landing? I know we don't know what we're going to get in the next biennium, but how do you feel at this point around the forecasting out another year?
We have modeled into the new biennium, and what you'll see is that moment where the expense and revenue lines touch, we lose it again in the next biennium. And it's difficult to invest heavily in modeling on that right now because there's so many factors we don't know. The most important thing that we don't know is what the state will give us. We've modeled it based on the governor's initial commitment to increase state aid to schools by about $1 billion. And for us, our share of the true increase, the true improvement in the funding model would be about $18 million a year. The reason that those lines in our forecasting don't touch anymore, if we only model it at the governor's early calculations, is because PERS is about half of the total amount that we were so excited about earlier in the year. Yes. So in other words, the governor had made some early signals that she would include in her recommended budget a new $515 million for all K-12. And that was to address the fact that right now there are some pretty serious problems in the way they calculate the ongoing cost of schools. And in fact, they have been undervalued every year for over a decade. When they fixed that calculation, they did not know about the PERS rates. And so across the state, of the $515 million that was initially suggested would be increased, half of it now we just lose for PERS. The total amount was only keeping pace with our costs. And that's how we see those lines separate again. That's one of the main factors.
I have a follow-up if no one else is.
Okay.
Okay, so when we built the budget last time, what were we projecting for our vacancy rate? You said it was 7% on average last school year, and we're at 3.5% this year.
We would normally have projected a vacancy savings rate. We would not probably have built it into our budget because that is not, it is not a standard Oregon practice for budget creation. However, last year, actually, it might have been you and I was standing over there. People asked what the vacancy rate, what we thought the vacancy savings rate was. And what I said was, I have no idea how to predict this because we had the recall list and there just wasn't a way to look at historical patterns and know. What I had hoped for was a vacancy savings rate somewhere in the range of 1% to 2%, which would have helped us close the gap, but would have also meant that we were more fully staffed than we are. As a rule of thumb, just broad numbers, each vacancy, each percentage of vacancy savings is about $5 million in saved revenue. I'm sorry, saved expenses.
Thank you. I think where I'm going is that I continue to see, I know we want to have a high ending fund balance because anything could happen and we want to have a cushion. We want to balance our budget. But the more immediate concern for me as a school board director is, achieving the rest of our goals as a board around academics and attendance and graduation rates, everything that we talk about all the time. And so I guess I just raise it as a point of discussion. At what point do we become a little more aggressive or risky, I guess, in spending down some of that in the current moment that we're in? So that's just where my head goes for more context.
It's an important point. Right now, if we were able to simply fill all of the vacancies we have, the ending fund balance would drop back down to, I don't know the exact number, but say somewhere in the range of probably about 70 million. And John's team is working continuously to try to fill those vacancies. School hiring has a season. And once you're out of season, it's actually extremely difficult to bring in qualified people mid-year because most educators don't leave mid-year. They see a school year through. And that's why once a vacancy rate sets into a school year at the start, it's actually rather difficult to budget. We are working on that. A few additional points on this ending fund balance. This year, there are some capital expenses that we must address. And I don't know where it will end up landing here, but this is because we are, I don't know the number now, but somewhere in the range of 97% plus spent down on our bond. But we still have things that our buildings need. And this means that this year and for every year until we have, should we be so lucky, new voter approved bond funding, those basic expenses are gonna have to come out of here. We have several years until we're looking at the possibility of new bond funding. And so Bob Silva and his team are managing very closely those capital projects to make sure that the most urgent safety issues and deferred maintenance are being handled, and just stretching out our savings to get through to the next bond.
Chair, can I-
Dr. Sati.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, in a way, it feels comfortable that we have at least a cushion of end fund balance, because it can, just like you mentioned, if there is some emergency things. But also, I would also worry if the end fund balance drops, what it will do to our bond rating in a time where getting any bond measure passed, just like community college, I think they couldn't get their thing through. So in this economy, getting any levy, bond and all can become a little tricky. So leaving some cushion in case there's a building leak or a roof is falling off or something like that would be one way I would lean towards more little bit of conservative savings for the rainy days or some unanticipated things. During the pandemic, we had some money which allowed us to buy 10,000 internet, whatever that hotspot hubs and things like that. So, and the second thing is I worry about what it will do to our bond rating if it goes down too much, because eventually we'll have to go, and otherwise that extra interest will get passed on to the community, and that would not be something our community has the bandwidth in this climate.
If we end at 91 million, let's just say this forecast is exactly right, I think that is just shy of 14%, which is above the standards that we have established for ourselves. So my actual real hope here is that we are able to do the aggressive hiring that we've set out as goals for ourselves. And that includes aggressive recruitment of our hardest to fill positions, which a combination of Deputy Superintendent Cobb and John Bate have been working on, especially related to special education hiring. We will be delighted to be in a situation where we're bringing on dozens of new staff mid-year. That will push the ending fund balance down for all the right reasons, which is that we're bringing deeply needed people into our system.
Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Superintendent Castaneda, just as a point of clarification, I think in terms of where we're sitting, so when we're talking about the ending fund balance of the general fund, actually, let me back up for a second. So we have the general fund, and then we have other funds for other purposes. Do capital projects specifically sit in the general fund, or are they in other funds as well?
Well, they are, we can pay for them with bond funding. And, you know, our Chief Operating Officer, Bob Silva, might well know off the top of his head what percentage of bond funding there is remaining, but for now, we'll just say almost none. So it can come out of bond, it can come out of Gen Fund, or subsets of Gen Fund, which are really deferred maintenance and maintenance accounts. I believe that is the entirety of what we can spend on capital projects. Bob, is there anything you want to correct or add to that?
Okay.
So we can't use title, we can't use high school, like the SIA, those are all pretty locked down.
Yeah, and one of the things that we did with this last budget cycle is that we needed to replenish some of that capital fund money because of like damage that was done to our buildings because of ice storms and whatnot. And so there's the money that we've already allocated for updating our buildings as much as we can, or repairing our buildings as much as we can. Granted, barring any like current deferred maintenance and any natural disasters. And so this ending fund balance is separate from that, correct? Does that question make sense?
It is separate to a degree. The way that it is separate is that we do have appropriations in accounts that are part of our budget for deferred maintenance and for capital projects. We use Gen Fund money to maintain and replenish those accounts. So it kind of is all coming from the same source. We can use and will, in fact, this year be using some of our general fund for capital projects. And we will be doing our best as we budget into the next year and beyond to not just maintain, but probably grow those maintenance accounts. Because as the bond money goes down, we have to have something else to deal with core maintenance and safety issues. So I'll give you an example. We have stage lighting and stage rigging in some of our high schools. These are very expensive projects, multi-million-dollar projects. And they are core safety issues for our students and staff who are on stage. So these are not things we can delay, and these are not things we can discount. We simply need to have the resources at our disposal to deal with them. Thea?
Well, I was about to ask what would be an example of a capital project. Is that like things that we need to solve immediately, kind of? That wasn't the correct wording, but my main question was just that obviously we don't, under the bullet points of what we don't know, I'm assuming the second bullet point, we will know it much later than the first one, and also follow-up question of just like, when does that information come out of like how much the state aid will give us?
Well, this will be, to a certain degree, my first rodeo of a long session, but I believe the answer is going to be June for the first bullet. And I'll kind of defer to others at the table who have been through this. June, okay.
Sometimes we have to pass the budget before the state finalizes the budget. So there is always that delay. That's my experience the last 5 years. We have to approve the budget May or something. When is it? May 15th? June. And then the state approves their budget afterwards. So sometimes there is.
Okay, so if we find that out in June, and all of that along with inflation and unforeseen costs and the 27 million that we decided not to cut more of from last year, do you know if and how much you will end up cutting again for this next school year, and like when that information will come out? That makes sense.
I will say I make Sarah Head, our senior finance director, a little uncomfortable when I say this, but I do not believe we will be reducing again. Now, there could be surprises that cause me to recant on that. It could end up being the case that there is no additional state aid for schools. But I believe that the reductions that we made last year will be sufficient to carry us through. Through FY26. I don't know that I can say the biennium. So through the next fiscal year. Dr.
So kind of going back to the first question, for, when it comes to legislative advocacy, is this something that the Oregon can start thinking in terms of a progressive model where there is a different way of funding the purse which keeps growing, just like Massachusetts has a model, etc., or some other states have, or capital expense and certain things. Because our usual pattern is the whole general fund we use, and then the purse also we have to accommodate within it. So it just allows, let's say 40% goes towards purse. So there's only 60% of whatever the general fund is actually there for salaries and wages and all the other things we're talking about. So is this something, would be a legislative advocacy topic to say a different type of funding model where purse is kept aside and there is a separate way of funding that purse so that it protects that purse?
It is part of advocacy, absolutely. And when the working group that worked on school funding directly with the governor's office was with them, a modification to the way PERS was included was part of the package recommendation. The PERS adjustments was not included in the initial response that the governor's office issued. And that contributes to the reason that as soon as they made some initial and important commitments, and then the change from the advisory rates came out, it was such a shock to everyone. So COSA has been working along with others and OSBA to strongly advocate, not just with the governor's office, but more generally, that the PERS growth factors need to be considered differently as part of the way they calculate necessary state aid. Otherwise, you're right, we just keep slipping. Every year, our expenses go up and our functional revenue does not keep pace. And so we tighten our belts and we do it, and then it happens again and again and again.
So it leaves us, even though it looks like a big money, but it only leaves 60% of whatever the full.
Microphone.
Oops, sorry. It leaves about 50 to 60% of our entire general fund for salaries and wages and COLA and everything else. That's how I'm beginning to understand this purse rate.
I don't think that the proportions are quite that extreme, but the general concept that you're describing is true and a hardship for Salem-Keizer in every district in Oregon.
Thank you very much. Now we will move to the annual integrated programs report for the 23-24 school year, presented by Director McElroy and Director Schofer.
Good evening, Chair Richardson, directors, Superintendent Castaneda, and student advisors. Thank you for the opportunity to share this evening. We are bringing to you the 23-24 Integrated Programs Annual Report, which provides us some opportunities to share highlights and next steps around our integrated programs. Over the course of the 23-24 school year, each quarter we've been asked to report on grant expenditures and reflect on various progress markers. For those who have been on the board for some time, you're familiar with this structure. In recent years, we've focused specifically on our student investment account, which starting in the 23-24 school year has been braided into our broader integrated programs. Before we review these highlights and next steps, I do want to share, as in previous years, the annual audit that is required as part of SIA will be shared later this winter. Also, the annual report, the full annual report with the annual questions will be posted on our website later this week for you to access the full report. So, to recap the 23-24 school year, I would like to share some highlights as to how we used our resources within our integrated programs. I'm going to start with career technical education. I do want to share this as a previous middle school and high school principal. Those spotlights help me see the stories and the experiences behind the work that's happening in our schools. It's nice to see that. But at a 1,000-foot level, within our integrated programs, career technical education continues to make a significant impact across our high schools for those students accessing career pathways in our CTE programs. We know students who participate, particularly those we identify as CTE concentrators, meaning they've completed at least 2 semesters of a career pathway, have higher attendance rates, have higher graduation rates than our non-participants. That's a real factor. Our CTE team is working diligently to create new industry partnerships with various programs offered. A good example that was shared with me recently from our CTE coordinator is the partnership with CCTV Media with our audio, media, and broadcasting journalism programs at McKay High School, McNary, and South Salem. This partnership brings industry experts to these programs to work alongside students on sports and news broadcasting, podcasting ethics, and to serve as direct mentors to students in these programs. Those are partnerships we're continuing to grow and develop across our community. Another highlight from the 23-24 integrated programs is specific to our 9th grade on track work. I know as a former middle school and high school principal, this work is critical to student success in our secondary schools. We know students that are on track by the end of their freshman year, meaning they've earned at least a quarter of the credits they need to graduate, are more likely to graduate in that 4-year time frame. To support our 9th grade on track work, we've invested in our data teams across our high schools, teams of teachers and staffs that meet regularly, looking at data, doing interventions with individual students. We also have worked to support student mentors that provide direct outreach to students and families who may need support with improving regular attendance, homework assistance, access to credit recovery or enrichment programs beyond the school day or in the summer. Those student mentors are there and they're available to those students. Dual language is another highlight that I'd like to share this evening. In 23-24, we continued to work to expand dual language programs and access across our district. Dual language is now offered in 31 of our schools. I got to tell you, I was the principal of parish in 2008 when we transitioned the dual language program from Grant to Parish, and that was a lot of fun, but it's just hard to imagine the growth that we've seen with dual language in our district over the last decade. It's very impressive. Thanks, Aaron. These investments have been used to support teacher and school leadership trainings, provide programs with literacy-rich materials in both the target languages of Spanish and English, and really with the goal of supporting language development while also teaching content. There's a real art to that, and our teachers need the resources, they need the training to do that both well. Social, emotional, and mental health support is another investment that we've made within our integrated programs, another highlight for us. As we've discussed in length, you all know our students feel connected to school communities. Who feel connected to school communities are more successful academically. To foster connections, we've expanded access to extracurricular activities such as sports, music, and theater, particularly in our secondary schools within our integrated programs. Additionally, these resources have funded access to school-based social workers, counselors, and mental health professionals. I'm also including early literacy in this. Early literacy is considered a jumpstart biennium grant that we applied for and secured last winter, and will be braided into our new biennium integrated plan 25-27 as its own outcome. So you'll hear more about our early literacy work around curriculum, around how we're supporting the professional development needs of our teachers, around how we're building in intervention time both during the school day and after the school day during the summer for kids who just need more time to read, to practice reading. So I'm gonna hand this over to Jonathan, who's gonna talk a little bit more about next steps around our integrated programming.
Great, thank you, Rob. And also a clear testament to the vast amount of work that Rob helps our system lead. You saw him twice in two very different capacities this evening, and I want to thank you for that work as well. I'm hoping and seeing a lot of the conversation that we just looked at in terms of the prior slide as well, right? A direct connection to our results policy. The integrated plan is built around an acronym that the state uses for LGPTs, or longitudinal performance growth targets. Those are directly aligned to our results policy. They are, in many ways, the same metric. And so what this lets us do is continue to make that focus, and you'll see a lot of the highlights and programs that Rob highlighted just now directly aligned to what we heard about last month when we were doing that monitoring report. The work this year is also going to further extend and deepen that focus on early literacy, dual language, social, emotional, behavioral supports, and again, regular attendance. You see this a lot in the constant communications we give to families as well. As we then go into looking towards the next 2 years in the integrated plan, and a lot of the work happening right now is that deep needs assessment, where we are engaging our community for the outcomes and the areas of focus that they care most about. That's back to the chair.
Are there any questions? Sophia?
I was just going to point out how great it is that we have so many dual language schools. As a student that literally moved like from South Salem to West Salem so I could continue speaking Spanish and like develop my relationship with the language of Spanish, like that is so cool to see.
Thanks for your hard work. That's all. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It is now time for the public comment portion of the school board meeting. Please note that we selected speakers at random. We provided an opportunity for public comment by call-in, Zoom, in person, and in writing. Each participant has 3 minutes. Electronic mechanisms are used for translation. We have a countdown timer on the screen for monitoring your time. The timer counts down from 3 minutes. At 30 seconds, it turns from green to yellow, and at 1 second, it turns red and plays a short bell to signal time is up. Please be mindful of your pace for our interpreters. If the board receives written comment ahead of the meeting, the written comment will be posted on the district website. Tonight, 2 people signed up and have been selected to comment. Our first speaker will be Sarah Young.
My name is Sarah Young, and tonight I speak as an Ask ESP union representative on behalf of the 42 elementary LMAs in the Salem-Keizer Public School District. When this district hires someone to fill a position like the one I fulfill, they hire them under the title Library Media Assistant. Many of these newly coined LMAs, let's call them frazzled, have been given no library media training, job shadowing, or even an accurate description of job duties. Let's take a minute and take a peek into the work life of frazzled and all elementary LMAs in this school district. An excited and optimistic frazzled arrives for her first day in the library and looks around for the person she will be assisting. Frazzled sees no one in a rapid scan of the library. Relief! She hears footsteps heading her way. This must be the library specialist that she will be assisting. Relief soon turns to panic as an entire classroom of 30-plus students walks into the library. Taking a deep breath, Frazzled tries to slow her heart rate as she realizes she is the library specialist. Frazzled's first day of work includes morning duty, 7 library classes, lunch duty, recess duty, 2 self-led reading groups, Chromebook troubleshooting during library class time, checking in almost 200 books on a library computer system that she has not been trained on, checking out almost 200 books while simultaneously trying to guide students to good fit books, running reading time on the carpet with primary students, introducing new books to intermediate students with book reads, running rainy day recess in the library, counseling disagreements and arguments between students, calling behavior support for students who hit, pinch, and scream, teaching students how to navigate the books in the library, run a makerspace system, and finally, she finishes out her day with dismissal duty. At the end of her first week of work, Frazzled has managed 40 classes in her library. Her check-in cart is overflowing onto the floor with unshelved books. Damaged books are piled up, needing repair. Chromebooks need to be entered into the ticketing system for attention, as well as Chromebooks that need to be labeled and checked out to newly enrolled students. As Frazzled completes her first month in the library, she learns that she will be required to annually compile and submit book orders, complete library inventory, weed outdated and irrelevant books, label and check in and out Chromebooks to each student in the school, and potentially implement a typing program to intermediate grade levels. She is overwhelmed, overscheduled, overworked, and underpaid. Frazzled decides that she will stay a little longer because things have to get better soon. Someone has to see that a doubled class load equals a doubled workload. Someone has to step in and lessen her workload. Someone has to see how frazzled all library specialists are. They just have to.
Thank you very much. Are you Jillian? Jillian Terrasa.
Yes. My name is Jillian Terrasa, and I will be sharing a statement written by a former library media assistant, Lisa Olson. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to once again share with you. I had the privilege of speaking in person to the school board this past May, sharing with you several additional duties that were going to be added to library media assistants in this coming school year. These duties were in addition to all that was already being expected of assistants. I left that evening feeling as though we had been heard and the possibility of district help coming to our aid seemed genuine. As the days and weeks passed, it became clear the district was not going to take immediate action to support and relieve the upcoming added duties of the LMAs. The district's immediate solution was to start an Advisory Committee to meet every month for an hour to talk about our positions, every other month. I'm not speaking in person to you tonight because I have left the district. I did not take this decision lightly. In fact, it took me 2 months to accept the job offer I was given. I know I was good at my job. I know I was good at making connections with staff and students, but it became clear the district was going to keep placing more and more expectations onto library media assistants without any regard for them as employees. If you have not read the outdated position description for the library media assistants, you need to, and then take the time to let it sink in as to what has been added to their duties just this school year. You have allowed additional classroom prep times to be forced onto them by school administrators following the new teacher contract. You allowed the shift of Chromebook distribution, upkeep, and retrieval to be given to them instead of utilizing the current IT department. You have allowed the cataloging of new library materials to be dropped to them following the RIF of library media personnel. And please don't underestimate what other duties as assigned by an admin can look like to a library media assistant. As an example, this past school year, in addition to my library position, I did before and after school car line duty, 3 recess coverages a day, leadership committee, PBIS committee, and 2 scholastic book fairs. All of this comes with a cost, the least of which is library media assistants giving their own personal time weekly, if not daily, to be able to do their jobs. I truly never saw myself leaving public school for a private school. I believe in public schools. In leaving, I chose to stop allowing the district to take me for granted and abusing my personal time. I chose a school where it is obvious they value their employees. I am still a library and media assistant, and I get to work alongside a teacher librarian. I get 8 hours a day to do my job. I did not take a pay cut. We do cover 1 teacher prep a week, and our class sizes are no more than 20 students. I do not have any additional duties during my day. We do process our own library materials, but the IT department takes care of all Chromebook issues, and I never come in early or stay late. Salem-Keizer, you can do better. These library media assistants deserve to be seen, heard, and supported, or you will continue to lose highly qualified individuals. The real loss ends up being to our students.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will take a 10-minute break. It's 7:20. Please return by 7:30. Thank you.
At this time, we'll call the meeting back to order.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
At this time, we'll call the meeting back to order. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the readings and discussion section, including 3 OSBA resolutions, as well as the candidate materials for the Legislative Policy Committee for Marion County, Position 12. For a brief overview of these items, I will turn it over to Superintendent Castaneda.
Thank you, Chair. I am not an expert in these areas, but I am going to do my best to walk us through the major elements of the OSBA package. I'm going to share it here. There are materials for you, and then this will give you time to read. Then in December, there'll be time for discussion and for voting. And if you have additional questions that we can't answer, we'll bring them back to OSBA and collect those answers for you. First, I want to cover the dues increases. It has been a long time since there's been a dues increase for OSBA, far longer than has really made sense for them, and they have tried to work with school districts. They are now introducing a excuse me, a multi-year due increase schedule. The last increase was $98.99. For Salem-Keizer, the due increase, the 24-25 dues are $18,940 for our district. By the time the schedule is complete, we will be up to $26,000 per year. That is, roughly the pace of increase. Most of the increases will happen by the 26-27 year. Those dues pay for most of the board services you guys receive, the lobbying work, the convenings, the core services that OSBA offers, not just board members, but the state in general. So that is one major item. A second item is related to the creation of a Pride Caucus. And this has already gone through the vetting steps inside of OSBA. I, in fact, am in no way qualified as the most informed person in the room on this, but I will give it the overview. There's a process required by bylaws for the creation of a new caucus. I believe there is, for example, a rural caucus. Is that right? So this creates a Pride Caucus, and this is an item that is on the docket for for approval by board members of member districts. And then there is an item related to amendment of the OSBA bylaws. You guys have access to a red line version and a summary version of these. They are mostly technical in nature and relate to adding an additional board member, changing some eligibility criteria, creating the Pride Caucus, and a few other minor issues. And then the final issue is the Legislative Policy Committee, which we have taken up for Position 12 candidates in previous board meetings. I know that this is a lot of content. There is plenty for you to read in your packet, and I will probably not answer questions if you ask them, but I will collect questions and we will get answers for you from OSBA directly. So Chair, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes,
Just
Director.
a quick question on the resolution to amend the bylaws, and I don't know, Superintendent, you might not have the answer, but maybe someone else here does. So the LGBTQIA2S+, the bylaws would be amended to add additional seats onto the board, or is it to say these 7 seats, but one of these 7, I don't even know how many seats we have. One of these seats needs to be a representative from the caucus. Director Ashley Carson-Cunningham, I think you might know.
I think I know, but we might want to confirm after the fact. I know when you establish a caucus through OSBA, then you get representation on the actual board from the caucus. So the Color Caucus has membership on the actual OSBA board, the Rural Caucus, et cetera. So part of establishing a caucus is then you have representation on the board.
So as we are adding caucuses, we're adding
Yes.
people onto the board. Okay.
Yes.
That's what.
All right. No further questions? Thank you. That brings us to our consent calendar. Superintendent Castaneda, do you wish to provide review of any item on the consent calendar?
I do not, thank you.
So at this time, I'd like to take a motion and a second to vote on our consent calendar.
Chair, I move
Yes.
that we approve the consent calendar as presented.
Thank you, Director Pressey. And second by Director Sati. All in favor?
I was wondering if I could pull something
I'm
from
sorry.
that.
Just a moment.
Thank you. I'd like to pull an item from the consent calendar, if that's okay.
Okay.
So approve the Native American Heritage Month proclamation. Go ahead and speak. So I just wanted to vote on this separately for a reason that's going to be hard for me to convey. So I could speak a lot on this. I'm going to be short, which will probably leave questions. And I always hope that people ask questions, community and peers, whichever. So this is a reoccurring item that we vote on along with others. And I know that by majority we'll continue to pass them, and that's good and that's fine because all of our students need to be recognized and feel valued and worthed. However, because we've continued with this for some time, I'm always hoping that we can kind of review and start throwing in resolutions that have different focuses. So for example, if we need to have more resolutions projecting more of our academic value and standards that we hold as a district, which touches every student. I can speak to several Native Americans, students in our district that have actually felt left behind because of things that, and if we were to just focus on more academic achievement, they wouldn't have been. For example, Native American tag students, we've dropped things like that from our district. And this is really hurting them, especially when we see that our decline, just like the gentleman, Jesse, that spoke today in attendance, that proves continually from the Native American group. And I think that my own family, being Native American, and my deep love and appreciation for that culture specifically, but all individual cultures, I believe that I am honoring them the best I can, sitting here requesting to say, trade that for a resolution that would cover more academic achievement for all of our students. I hope to continue to capture them and to create more options for not only them, but every other child when and if we can start putting a little more focus and discussion as we overall wanting our kiddos to come out with that learning. It's a big topic, obviously, for our community and the declines and the struggles that we've had. And I feel like this is a small area of opportunity that we have that can actually make a difference from all corners and crevices. So I don't know if that makes sense. I would like it. I mean, we could have conversation about that, but that's all. I was going to pull it out to vote separately on. Thank you.
Chair, I would just like to make a point of order. We have a motion and a second. We would either have to amend the motion or move forward with it.
I was about to correct it.
Oh, thank you.
I was going to correct it. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar except for item A?
A is, what is the A?
It's the Native American proclamation.
Yes, Chair, I will.
Okay. Is there a second?
Well,
We had,
Chair,
so we had, but it was for the whole,
yeah.
and
Well,
now we are taking the other item and voting on it, and not item A, the pooled item.
But typically, if we need to amend a motion, the person that needs to approve the amendment is the person that made the motion? Or I'm looking at amend the original motion and then vote on that amendment. And then we can, yeah, okay.
Just like we do every.
So we would need to make a motion to amend the motion.
Yes. And you made the motion? Yes.
Chair, I'll make a motion to amend the motion to pull that item.
To pull item A, okay. Do you want to second it?
No.
Huh? Nobody wants to second it? So if nobody second it, then what?
If you would like to second his motion. since it's your
Oh,
motion.
sorry. Yes, second it. Thank you.
Second by Director Hudson. All in favor of item, right?
Of amending
Of
the motion.
Of the amended motion.
Amending the motion. Yes.
We've amended it. All in favor of amending the motion, please say aye.
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 Thank you.
2, 4,
3.
3 for it?
Aye.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I said aye. I don't know if you heard that.
Okay.
We got you, Lisa.
3 aye and 4 nay.
So now we can move on to the original motion.
So now, we go to the original motion.
I'm approving consent calendar with item A and B.
I'm sorry.
We'll move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
We will move to approve the consent calendar as presented. Do I need a motion again?
Then you can just second it. Yeah, so now we can just vote on the question.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Did I get everybody?
And then
Okay. Any opposed?
I oppose.
1 opposed. So thank you.
Did we get that, Ashley?
All right. Now we'll go to information standard reports. As a reminder, everything in the information standard reports section is provided for the board's review ahead of the meeting. Superintendent, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I do not have anything related to standard reports, but I'm going to shoehorn something in, which is, I believe, 15 minutes ago, the McNary boys soccer team, for the first time in about a decade, started a semifinal playoff game against Jesuit. And so fingers crossed that that goes well. And I just want to give them a non-standard report shout out since I'm not going to get another chance.
All right. At this time, we will go to our board reports. Lisa, would you like to go first?
I'd be happy to. Thank you, Chair. I'm so sorry I can't be in the room with you all this evening. I'm up in Portland at a pyramid conference, learning all about the environments that we all aspire to have our children in. I had a chance to visit our early childhood program overseen by Stephanie Wetzel, and was taken on a tour and saw a newer classroom that they have, that they are providing additional supports for children to ensure that they are ready to succeed, helping to deal with either behavioral health or emotional challenges that they're seeing in the classrooms. And it was just really well put together in offering some extra love and care and support for children so that they can be successful in the classroom. And it was just really inspiring to see. So that was my major thing that I was able to do as a little bit of a board member and then also professionally as well. And it was just commend the district for putting supports in place for children. So thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sati?
Oh, thank you very much, Chair. With everything going on, sometimes we forget to appreciate our own fellow board members and all the good things that we do. So I'm going to recognize our chair, Director Cynthia Richardson, for receiving the COSA Lifetime of Service Award. An amazing educator. And I asked for this information, but of course she texted me. Since I can't multitask while in the board meeting, I didn't open the text until I went home and saw. I'm sorry. I should have recognized this the previous board time. But I really want this to be an important, because she's an amazing lifetime, as I shared during the initial introduction, that like generations of 4 generations of educator, inspiring person and role model for our children from African American community and all other communities, to just see her lifetime. Her life is her message, and that is the reason I wanted to kind of say that thank you very much for being our chair and for us to get an opportunity to serve in the board with you, Chair Cynthia Richardson, for getting this COSA Lifetime of Service Award. This was the first of its kind of award, and she got it, and we should all be very proud that she sits here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
I don't know if this is not youth. Maybe you are youth. They said that you are supposed to talk about only youth, so maybe we are all youth. It's just
Director Hudson.
All right. Well, this week I got to engage at a school event and meet more new faces of high school students around our district, which I was very excited about, to honor the Indian heritage. And that was nice. That was fun. And it's just always neat to see other community members supporting things. But beyond that, what I really want to talk about is just the gratitude for our staff and our schools this year, because with last year being rough, which we talked about a bit this meeting today, I really do think that with our kiddos coming home each day reporting back, our staff that are so chipper and happy, and I just, every time, they're so wonderful when I visit the schools, and keeping their spirits up for their sakes, for their peers, for the students, keeping that passion alive. I think we had a lot of talk last year with the concern of morale dropping, and I understand that as we heard from our Ask group today, again, that it's not always that all the time, but I'm sure impressed, honestly, by the energy that you are all projecting and the efforts you're putting in and rolling up the sleeves and moving on. And what an awesome way to teach our youth that that's what we do in life when we come across hardships. And I'm just very, very thankful for that, so.
Thank you. Director Cottingham.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the superintendent for putting together the spotlight today around our Native Ed programs and our Native parent group and this proclamation. It's really important to, in my opinion, that we uplift our tribal members and Indigenous peoples during this month. I think when I joined the board, it was really important to me that the school board develop a government-to-government relationship with the two tribes in our area, and we started that by doing tribal consultation from the leadership of the board with leadership around education of the tribe, and also offering to meet with tribal elders so that we could grow that relationship. I think it's important to make sure we're focusing on our Native kids who are sometimes left behind, sometimes having lower attendance rates and disproportionate discipline in our schools. And so the more we can focus on addressing the harms that have occurred over time and rectifying those as we move forward and creating opportunity for all, I think the better. And I think I mentioned this in a meeting before, but since one of our amazing staff, Shelby, was here in the room earlier, she put together an educational program that I believe started out of Canada called the Blanket Exercise. And I just want to highlight it again today for anyone who's interested in looking into it. There were a number of educators who attended. There were tribal members that came even from Warm Springs over in Central Oregon to do the blanket exercise. And it was a phenomenal experiential learning opportunity where you go through something like 400 years of history to understand what's happened to Indigenous people in the Americas and what the impact is today, which then kind of gives you the launching pad for what we can all do collectively and every day to ensure those wrongs never occur again and that we're supporting our Native youth. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Guzman.
Thank you, Chair. I would start off by acknowledging that after our last business session, we went into conferences. That was like literally 2 days after. So I still remember I was out at the high school with my kiddo and, we were visiting different tables. And so I just wanted to, a little late, but I also want to just express appreciation and gratitude to all of our educators who spent countless hours updating grade books and meeting with families and providing updates and just being tactful and encouraging. So really just appreciate that, and to all the families that showed up. Over the last few weeks, two big things for me, I guess I had the opportunity to go out to South Salem High School with our student advisor, Kaden, who also happened to be there. And we got to do an observation of the weapon detection there. And so just kind of seeing, students coming in, staff coming in and talking a little bit about the different protocols. So that was really helpful. And then lastly, I want to give out a big shout out to Leah, who is a student in the out-of-body repair and painting program over at CTE. I went over to do a tour of the building once more, and I was her sole group member, and it was her first time doing this as an ambassador at the school, and she was a little nervous, but she did amazing. And we got a chance to talk and connect a little bit about Marilyn Monroe, and she asked me or encouraged me to read David Goggins. Apparently this is her idol, and so I thought I will take you up on it, because this was a very strong and wise and just willed young lady, and I was definitely inspired by her, and it just made me feel so much gratitude and appreciation for the work that our educators are doing, and then just honestly for our young people, and just it gives me hope. So kudos, Leah, and thank you.
Thank you. Director Tracy.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have anything specifically to report on my committee assignments this time around. I had a really big event on Friday that I organized that kind of pushed everything that happened before that out of my brain. But I did want to just re-up and make sure that Director Carson Cottingham's remarks are uplifted, because when I moved here to Oregon, one of the things I noticed is that there is a bit of a divide between our Native communities and the rest of Oregon. And moving from New Mexico, that was really startling to me, particularly because in New Mexico, I was just so used to interacting with the Dene, and then also like just integrated in our everyday life, and hosting one of the largest powwows in the country being hosted in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I had the privilege and the honor of actually visiting the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde and getting to go to, I probably am not going to pronounce this, Chachalu Museum? Okay, thank you. I'm not quite used to the way that, I'm very much used to South United States. And I was really surprised, again, coming here from New Mexico, that the tribe was terminated in the 50s. And the fact that we had young people showing us their culture and speaking so strongly about their experience and their connections to the tribe and the culture, it genuinely brought tears to my eyes. I'm so happy and glad that that folks were able to maintain that connection and that lineage and that resiliency. And I do want to thank, if we're passing around acknowledgements to our board members, I do really want to thank Director Carson Cottingham, and also at the time, Director Osvaldo Avila, for engaging in that government-to-government relations and updating our land acknowledgement and making sure that our connection with tribal communities is as strong as it could be. Thank you.
Thank you. Student advisors, Sophia.
I actually came up with a list for today, so I'm going to make up for all the other times where I didn't have that much to say. And the first thing is just that being a senior this year is so weird. It's so weird, and I'm sure Kaden can say the same thing. But one of the things is just that, and I think it has, like, I hate going into, like, the rut of, like, I don't know, like COVID, but the freshmen that I have had the opportunity to interact with this year have so much energy, and not like potential, or like not talking about it like that, but they just have so much energy and they're so excited. And I'm really grateful not to just be in this district, but to be at South, where we have our DECA program, and establishing a relationship and a position in that program has given me the opportunity to create events where I just showed up this morning in my advisor's classroom, and I was like, hey, what if we do this one thing? And he was like, if you want to do it, let's do it. And so having that kind of opportunity that I can just take advantage of, not like take advantage of, but take advantage of the opportunity is just great. And the freshmen this year, like, I know that leaving the district, it will be left in good hands, their hands, or the underclassmen of this year. Another thing, and Kaden and I actually got the opportunity to talk about it a little bit with the superintendent, and I don't want to say anything controversial other than to just, sorry, I didn't say what it was actually about, just following the results of the election, is just to be respectful. That feels like a really basic, like not deep thing at all, but even just in different classrooms, I have seen so many personally like hurtful things, and that's just really uncool. And I thought we were just so past that, and it's really disappointing that we're not. Talking about how it is Native American Month, South on the 19th, on Tuesday, has their Native American Assembly, which Jesse Solis is actually the president. He didn't mention it, but he's the president of Native Club, and he is going to be one of the main dancers at our assembly, our assembly, where we honor that group and that culture. And my partner and I actually are also going to be doing a speech talking about MMIW, which is Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. And we're going to be hosting a community conversation later on that I would probably send the invite to all of you guys too. I don't know. Oh, another event that is actually, I just checked the schedule because I am mentioning it now because I thought that it would like collide times with the school board meeting. It is actually the day after our next school board meeting, but it is an event that my DECA partner and I are putting on, which is called Feast for the Freeze, and it is going to be like a little luncheon. Hopefully, once we get a restaurant to give us free food, please do that. it's going to be a luncheon to help support the South Salem Unified program, which I will also be sending an invite to. But other than that, I was just thinking about some random things about our educators, and I have a teacher who I have recently put in an online order to buy an Advent, or what are those called? Like the countdown to Christmas, like an Advent fishing hook calendar for him. So it is just amazing how we have teachers in our district that create such a personal connection with students that I'm willing on spending $17.99 on an Advent fish hook calendar. Shout out Mr. Miller. And other than that, I would like to influence school admin and admin in general, and hopefully our board members to then influence specifically school admin, school, middle school, elementary, whatever, to please have more awards recognizing your students. I know that Rotary does them. I think having more school-specific awards is really beneficial for students who go out of their way to do things. And also, it gives students something to put in the awards section of their Common App.
Thank you. Student Advisor Caden.
I don't have that much. I just want to start by acknowledging, commemorating, and this might be a little biased, but McKay's music department. I know our choir concert, we put on a pretty good show. I'd say so. And then the day after that, then McKay had his band concert, which I got to attend, which was really, really cool to see and to support my peers. Wasn't able to attend any orchestra things, but I know that all the performing arts departments in McKay they're always doing their own things, and it's always really cool to see like what they've been working on. So I just want to acknowledge that. And then the choir concert, the theme was finding peace. So I kind of just want to tie that back to what Sophia was saying, how after the elections, we just need to be respectful to one another. And in our community, we need to do just that, find peace.
Thank you. I want to start out with congratulating Director Cottingham on her new position. Congratulations. Saturday, I attended the OSBA conference. It was great seeing some of our CTE students there. I got to see the aviation program. I know there was another program there, but I didn't get to see them before they left. I also was elated to present the Teacher of the Year, Mr. Brian Butcher, an African-American math teacher in Portland. That was just enriching. Superintendent Castaneda and I both served on a panel of school board chairpersons and superintendents, and it was just really, really great to share the great things that we're doing as a board and some of the strategies that we're using to make decisions and to work well together. I really feel like we're family. I really feel like we can talk to each other, we can agree to disagree, and we're getting things done. The last thing I want to do is congratulate Director Maria for an outstanding job on facilitating the Pucoon Gala. It was outstanding, and I know you should have been tired. You were all over the place, but it was just a great atmosphere to be in, great people there. I got to meet people that I probably wouldn't have otherwise gotten a chance to meet. It was just really a good feeling, and people's spirits were really, really high, and that was really, really important at such a time as that. Yes, congratulations. And at this time, I want to wish each and every one of you a happy Thanksgiving. Be blessed abundantly. And it is currently 8:04, and this meeting is adjourned.